Welcome back to Maryland Today. We've been chatting about identity theft with Deanna Booker from the Consumer Credit Counseling Service of Maryland and Delaware. Before the break, we were talking about properly disposing of things that have important information on them. I'd like to shift the conversation to the digital world now. Most of us do a lot of work on our home computers, whether it's for work or pleasure, or maybe it's shopping or paying bills. How do we make sure that our transactions are safe and secure?
You definitely want to look, like we were talking about earlier, look for that secure, that HTTPS. You want to see that little padlock, all of those things in the web browser that you're using. You want to make sure you're at secure sites. Our computers are powerful. They are powerful tools, when it comes to all the things that they can do. But they also, because they're so powerful, they open us up very, very wide for identity thieves. So we want to make sure that we're securing our computers. Make sure your password is hard to guess. Hard for somebody to figure out on your bank or your credit card, your phone, your shopping accounts, whatever it is that you're doing online. You want to make sure you've got strong passwords and don't use things like your social security number or your birth date backwards, that kind of thing. That would be easy.
1, 2, 3, 4.
Exactly.
That's my password.
I just read something where it was a study done talking about popular passwords. And one of the most popular ones was the word password. That just blew my mind. But
I'll be honest, it's a lot of my work passwords right here.
When you think about it, it's very simple. So you just want to make sure you're keeping that information close. You're not sharing your credit card or your personal information with a business, especially online, unless you know and you trust them. Avoid doing business with companies that don't list their names or their street addresses or their telephone numbers. Don't follow a link in an email from someone who says, hey, this is your bank. You really have to be careful. You have to be mindful.
Now, if we're online using the internet to shop or do whatever, people can get in and take our identity, but they don't have to take it from the sites that we're shopping on or that we're using. They can actually get in via our Wi-Fi, right? I mean, how many of us use the Wi-Fis and using our cell phones? From an identity theft perspective, is there anything we need to know about keeping ourselves safe using that wireless internet connection?
Exactly. You're exactly right. Public Wi-Fi connections are often unsecured. So this means that an identity thief can potentially see, all of that information that you're kind of putting out there over the airwaves. So I just don't think it's a good idea. I don't think it's a good idea to make online purchases or do our, mobile banking, using public Wi-Fi at the Starbucks or, in the airport. I think it's unsafe because, again, most public Wi-Fi connections are not secured.
Well, we've talked about mail and we've talked about trash and we've talked about the computers, but obviously identity theft can also occur when we just go out. So that brings up another question. When listeners do go out to shop or run errands, how much personal identification should they take with them? Is there a rule? How much is too much?
Yeah, I think it really does pay to limit the pieces of personal identification that you're carrying. You never want to carry your social security card unless there is a specific reason that you're going to have to show it at the place you're going. Your social security number really is the gateway, honestly, to your identity. And identity thieves can use it and take it and open accounts and get services, sell it to somebody else. So you never want to carry your social security card unless you absolutely have to. And look at your other pieces of ID, too, to see if they include your social security number. And if they do, leave those at home. Limiting the number of credit cards, debit cards that you're carrying. Take the card that you're going to use to pay for whatever it is that you're going to buy. And that's really all you need.
Since you mentioned credit cards and debit cards, when we do use those out in public, how can we make sure that we don't end up in trouble?
Well, I think one of the big things when you're going to the shopping center, say, when you leave your car, take your wallet, take your purse, take your briefcase, whatever it is that you're carrying with you. Number one, don't leave them in the car. Sometimes we say, I'll just take something out and leave the purse here. Don't do that because that makes us a target. When you're in the store and you're using your debit card or your credit card, just take some measures to make sure you're keeping your identity safe. You're putting in your PIN, kind of shield your card, with your hand. Make sure there's nobody standing really too close behind you doing what they call shoulder surfing, trying to see your number. If the cashier or the clerk somewhere that you are, they need some information from you, don't just holler it out. Write it down. You just want to make sure that you're keeping safe. At the ATM, that's a perfect example. At the ATM, you've got to be aware of your surroundings. You really have to be aware of who's behind you, who's to the side of you when you're making transactions at the ATM. if you're going at night, make sure it's well lit. Make sure nobody can see your PIN. Those kinds of things. We just have to be mindful that we're taking those measures.
We're talking with Deanna Booker, the manager of community outreach and communications at Consumer Credit Counseling Services of Maryland and Delaware, discussing identity theft today. Now, something you mentioned earlier is involving child identity theft. Now, I've read that's actually on the rise. How does this happen, and what can we do to protect our children?
You're absolutely right. Child identity theft is on the rise. It really is. What child identity theft is when a thief steals a minor's personal information and uses it to commit fraud. So a thief might steal and use a child's information to get a job or get government benefits or buy a car or get utilities turned on, that kind of thing. Where it really gets tricky when a child's identity is stolen is the fact that it might be years before anybody knows about it. If somebody steals a 5-year-old's identity, more than likely that child isn't going to, need to apply for credit or have anything to do with credit reports or anything like that, potentially for 10, 12, 15 years, until they're 18 years old. And so by that time, it can be too late. So you really want to safeguard your child's personal information. You want to follow the same guidelines that you would for yourself. The same way you're protecting your own information, protect your child's. So keep your child's information, their birth certificate, their social security number, the card, locked up in a safe place. Don't carry, again, just like for yourself, don't carry your child's social security number around or share your child's date of birth or their information with anyone unless you absolutely have to, because it is something that's happening more and more.
Well, we've talked about some precautions we can take to cut down on identity theft, but I think the big question that everybody wants to know an answer for, is there any way to ensure that we will never become victims?
The honest and the short answer to that is no. No. Unfortunately, nobody is immune from identity theft. There's no guarantee that it won't happen to you. However, the more steps we take to protect ourselves, the better chance we have of not falling prey. So folks who are regularly looking at their personal credit reports are also more apt to catch identity theft early on. So we just want to make sure we're taking the right type of precautions.
Well, we've talked a lot about identity theft and how we can have our identity stolen. So let's move on to talking about what do we do if we do find ourselves a victim of identity theft. Are there any precautions that you can take to help detect ID theft early on?
Yeah, you really want to review your credit reports often. You really do. Because again, like I said, somebody who's checking their credit reports regularly, they're going to catch identity theft more quickly. If an identity thief has opened a credit card or a loan account in your name, these things are likely to show up on your credit report. Now, federal law requires that each of the 3 major credit reporting companies supply you with a free copy of your credit report once every 12 months. So you can view and print free credit reports at www.annualcreditreport.com. So I can't stress enough how important it is to do that. Once you get a copy of the credit report, you really want to take some time and really review it very carefully. Look for accounts that you didn't open. Look for requests from companies that you didn't contact. Anytime somebody pulls a copy of your credit report, it's going to indicate that on there. So if you know you didn't contact a person, look for those requests that might stand out. Unfamiliar debts that are charged to your accounts. Check to see if the information like your social, your address, your employer, make sure all that's correct.
Are there any other warning signs outside of our credit report that might let us know that we've become a victim?
Well, I think, like we said earlier, if you're not getting the bills in the mail when you're used to them coming, I think that could be a big sign. That really can be an indicator that maybe an identity thief has, filled out a change of address card and is diverting your mail. If you find unexplained charges, accounts, requests for information on your credit report, like we were just saying, if you receive credit cards that you didn't apply for. So not just the request, but if you get an actual credit card in the mail that you didn't ask for, that's definitely an indication, I would think, that something's going on. Conversely, if you have applied for something and you're turned down, and, for no apparent reason, if there's some issues that you didn't know about, that's going to be an indicator, usually, unfortunately, that maybe you've been a victim. If you're getting calls from debt collectors and you know that all of your bills are paid, but you're getting calls from debt collectors, that's telling you something.
So if you do suspect that you've become a victim of identity theft, what is the first step you should take?
Well, I think the first thing you should do is call one of the nationwide credit reporting companies and ask them to place a fraud alert on your credit report. The company you call is going to contact the other two so they can also put that fraud alert on your credit file. So you definitely want to do that. Next, you want to order your credit reports and review them, like we were just saying. Each company's credit report about you is going to be slightly different, so make sure you get all three and that you review all three very, very carefully, making sure that information is correct. If you see mistakes, if you see those signs of fraud, you want to contact the credit reporting companies right away. Finally, the other thing that you want to do, and a lot of times folks don't take this step just because they don't know, you want to create what's called an identity theft report to help you get that fraudulent information removed from your credit report to stop a company from collecting debts that have been caused by identity theft, or to get information about accounts a thief opened up in your name. So to do that, to create that identity theft report, you want to file a complaint affidavit with the FTC. You want to go to www.ftc.gov/complaint. and take it to your local police or the police where the theft occurred and make sure that affidavit is on file.
So how long does it take to restore your credit once you've become a victim of identity theft?
You know, folks ask me this all the time, and there really is no easy answer, no quick answer to that question. And it's because every situation is different. You know, so it's just hard to say. It's hard to say. But what I can say is that there are things you can do to facilitate the process. So you want to make sure when you're dealing with trying to get identity theft corrected that you're keeping a record of the people that you speak to on the phone. You're getting their names, their numbers, the date and time of the calls that you made, what they said, on those calls. Follow up. Keep copies of things. You want to make sure that if errors continue to appear on your credit report, that you've contacted the credit reporting agency and the creditor that's showing up there. When you write to creditors and you're sending correspondence, send to the address for billing inquiries. Sometimes folks get that mixed up and they wonder why they're not getting responses. So you want to make sure you're sending to the correct place for a creditor. If a creditor agrees to close your account and discharge any debts, make sure you get that information in writing, something that confirms that decision in writing, and keep a copy. So it's important. We have to be on top of it. It's something that's going to take a lot of work and effort, but it can get done.
So what identity theft resources are there for people who might want to learn more about it?
Well, at Consumer Credit, we have a free self-directed e-learning course that covers identifying, preventing, and managing identity theft further. So you really can go to the course, use it. Go to our website. It's www.cccs-inc.org and access the education menu, and you can find that e-learning course. And it really is just full of some great information. Also, the Federal Trade Commission has a lot of identity theft information available on its website. And again, that's www.ftc.gov.
And can people that are listening right now who may need help reviewing their credit report or might need help with financial problems in general contact CCCS?
Oh, sure. They absolutely can. Call us to schedule an appointment at 1-800-642-2227. We offer counseling sessions at our offices throughout the Baltimore metropolitan area and also by phone.
And let's talk about that National Protect Your Identity Shred-It event once more. I know it's happening on October 20th, right?
That's right. Please come out and join us on October 20th. It's a Saturday between 11 a.m. and 2 p.m. at Towson University in the Student Union parking lot. At last year's event, Jeff, we shredded more than 4 tons.
Good Lord.
Yes, it was so exciting. 4 tons of old documents. It was such a success, and we're hoping that this year is going to be even better.
Any parting advice before we let you go here, Deanna?
Well, I can just say that the ways that identity thieves work are always changing. With technology, we talked about this earlier, there's always something changing. So it just pays to keep learning, keep getting as much information as possible, and keep taking as many precautions as you can. If you think you've been the victim of identity theft, Don't wait to get help. Immediately contact a credit reporting company, review your credit reports, go to the FTC site, complete that complaint affidavit, because the sooner you take these steps, the better chance you're going to have to minimize your risk.
Well, Deanna Booker, another wonderful interview. Lots of wonderful information that we've got from you today. I really do appreciate you coming by and spending some time with us once again.
It's my pleasure. Thank you so much for having me.
And thank you for joining us this and every week on Maryland Today.